Welcome, everybody, to the November 13th edition of the Technical Advisory Council of the Confidential Computing Consortium. We are an open and collaborative group. Everybody's welcome to jump into the conversation today, just as you are welcome to contribute constructively in all of our venues, including our open source projects. We abide by the Linux Foundation antitrust policy, and you can read more about that on linuxfoundation.org/antitrust-policy. Today we have two main agenda topics and maybe a couple of announcements. The first is we're going to vote on those proposals that have been hanging out in the GitHub issue for the last month or two. And then we have a few notable publications that have come out, and I think there's some common threads that are in them that we should probably come up with some responses or other actions for it. So that's sort of an open discussion for everybody today. Are there other topics that people anticipated on the agenda that you don't see here?
Or that you'd like to add, I guess.
All right. Always make changes on the fly. So let's just, since we're going to do a vote, I want to do a quick eyeball of who we have. And I think we've got pretty poor attendance, unfortunately. But Keith, thanks for joining. Always a bad time for Huawei. Scott, thanks for joining. Meta, typically absent. Alec had a note out to the list of things that he wanted to talk about, but we don't see Alec on the list. I am here. And then don't recall Yash mentioning that he was going to be out, but he's usually pretty consistent. And then I think I saw, yeah, Mingshen as well. So we are at 4. So we are short 1 for quorum. I think we'll still be able to proceed, though, and we can get asynchronous votes from
and if anyone logs in a bit late, we can reevaluate, I guess.
Yeah, typically we have a few late joins. I think I recognize everybody on the call today, so we probably don't need to do intros. But if I've overlooked somebody, feel free to interrupt me. But I'm just going to move right along. Last time we talked about ILET, or rather we had the annual update from ILET and heard where they are in their progression. And then we talked about the kind of strategy direction that we were getting from the board for the coming year and what we wanted to do with the budget, which is ostensibly the next topic that we will get into after this. Also on the announcements, we are coming to the end of the nomination period for TAC chair and co-chair or vice chair. If you are looking to expand your contribution to what we're doing, help guide what we do more, feel free to put your hat into the ring. Make yourself available to help guide how we spend our time here. I have no doubt.
So Dan, I can't remember if you've said what your intentions are. Are you able to do that? I can't remember if you have already or not.
I have not publicly stated any intentions yet. I'm trying to make sure that there is enough air for other people to come in if they are so inclined.
I have spoken to a couple of people, and I think I have at least one person who is going to put their hat into a ring, so that's good.
Excellent. All right. The only other announcements that I think we have is next meeting would be on top of the U.S. Thanksgiving Day, so we will be canceling that meeting. Anything else that people had for announcements? All right. So those of us that are present today, I'd like to go ahead and get the votes for these 3 things recorded, and then we can chase our absent colleagues for the remaining votes.
Do you want to go to that page so we can actually see what the allocation?
Yeah, and
You
I
have
just
it already there,
noticed
don't you? Yeah.
Scott's message. So there are more than the three that I've got listed. Verizon threw several ideas to help get the ball rolling. But I think that the principal one from Verizon is a part-time project manager. And, these have been up for several weeks now, so I'm not going to read them aloud. But the gist of this is they've got a lot of repos and they need help triaging issues across all the repos. And this is closest to the technical community architect role that we originally had this funding bucket for. It's just, we tried to spread that person across the entire portfolio. And so if we funded this, it would be kind of just concentrated then on Verizon.
And remind me again, is this funding for the end of this year or for the beginning of next year? What's the planning for that?
This is funding for 2026.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, just so everyone's clear.
The second one is the security audit for the SPDM tools project. So this is a project that potentially all of our companies will be using as TEIO picks up. So it would be good to get a security audit of what's going on there. And then Gramming is our most mature project from progression levels, and they are seeking support for their maintainers to fund some of that probably on a contract basis. So those are the three things that we have to vote on, and I think probably the easiest mechanism here is there is a little thumbs up button. So if you are a TAC voting member from one of the premier companies, you can go ahead into this issue. I don't know if somebody's already pasted this into chat. But we can go in there. So
it's not always easy to work out who is a member and who isn't, because the IDs on GitHub aren't always clear. So do we need to find another way of?
I think if we end up with a weird number of votes, we can go try to sort that out. But I'm
fair enough.
That we can do it this way. We could also do things verbally so that I understand where people are voting right now. To do this in a structured way. Maybe each of you who are in favor of. Is there a question?
Yeah, before we vote, it would be helpful. Like, what's the magnitude of the expense out of what size of budget?
We had $100,000 and we're going to split it to two projects so they each get $50,000. So it's basically like a 50K grant to try to do something substantive for a project. In the past, we'd kind of peanut buttered that money around one way or another. And we're going to try to have sort of more of a critical mass influence on each of these.
Okay, thank you.
So you're asking voting TAC members to thumbs up or thumbs down these particular issues. Is that correct? With the link in the chat.
Yeah, just thumbs up. So you get 2 votes. You get to vote on 2 of these proposals. If there's some way I can indicate that these ones are not relevant, but the 3 that we have call out are the project manager, the security audit, and the maintainer funding for Gramming.
So when you're saying you have 2 votes, you have 2 thumbs up, and you have to choose 2 of those a maximum. Is that, am I understanding correctly?
That is correct. So pick 2.
I'm really sorry. I must have missed this. When did we decide how this 2 out of 3 was going to be done? Was this the last meeting? I missed that.
Yeah, we've been discussing this for a few meetings. So
okay,
the only thing that's thinned out of this list
voting mechanism.
The only thing that I'm thinning out here is Verizon submitted multiple proposals as we were trying to generate ideas for how money could be spent. So I'm helping them narrow down to their one most substantive proposal.
Hey, Dan, are the teams aware of the amount of money they can spend in each project? Because I'm not sure whether 50,000 is good enough for project manager, or are they aware of that, or they have
Yeah.
estimated? Okay.
So, do we know who's cast their 2 votes? Can we narrow this down?
Yep, so we can see myself, Keith, and Alec.
I can't.
You just mouse over the widget there. I think at least that's how it works on my interface.
And I know I'm aware that I don't have a vote, but that maybe there is a way to vote on the Grameen, but I can't see it.
I don't think GitHub's going to know who's I mean, if you've got a Git login, you
I
can
know
vote.
I'm not supposed to be able to vote, but we can check who has from these, right? But which of the 3? Sorry, I'm really sorry, Dan. Could you say again which of the 3 things people can vote on? Because I'm not clear, and I suspect other people therefore are not either. Verizon part-time project manager, right? Okay.
Yep.
Next one. Okay.
Medium tools, security
And
audit.
the third one, there doesn't seem. Okay, if you scroll down,
Yeah.
scroll down. Oh, there is a little happy thing there. Okay, it's just that I don't get 6. I'm not a voting member. That's fine. Okay, that's brilliant.
Great.
Oh, wow. So you guys have got GitHub permissions set up so that only committers to the project are able to see the happy face.
Yeah, I believe that must be what's
but I'm not
happening.
allowed to vote. Yeah, which is appropriate.
Right, so I see 5 and 4. Nope. Vote changed live, so it went back to 4. Let's just recount people while you're voting. So I got 1, 2, 3,
Yikes.
4. Yeah, so I think there's only 4 voting members live on the call. We had Scott, but lost him, and then we gained Alec.
Yeah, sorry for joining late. I had technical issues.
Hey, glad you're here. However you got here.
And stay as long as you can.
All right, so it looks like we've got our votes cast, and then Renu and I will need to chase our wayward colleagues. Next set of topics is about these publications that have come out recently. There's probably some sort of technical responses, even if they're not direct responses to the articles themselves. But as we are thinking about the kind of documents that we might want to update or prepare for 2026, these probably give us indicators of places that the industry has uncertainty about our technology, or that we have not explained well, or that we need to reconsider in light of new events.
So do you want to go through these briefly?
Yeah, I wonder, so that I don't need to dominate the conversation here, Alec had suggested the ANSI one. I do have the document up itself if you want me to show that, or if you just kind of want to talk through what you noted from it, Alec.
Well, off the top of my head, what I suggest is that people need to understand that we've shrunk the TCB in confidential computing, but we still kind of have a shared responsibility model using the old style technology when you're running confidential computing in a public, cloud service provider. I kind of want to draw that hard distinction, right? Because the CCC isn't only about cloud service providers. Confidential computing can be run in a lot of places. It's only my own interests in the CCC that hew towards public cloud service providers. So in the context of public cloud service providers, I think folks need to understand that it's still the shared responsibility model. We've just shrunk the TCB tremendously.
Give us some context? Because although I understand what the words you're saying, I don't understand how they relate to anything on the screen. Sorry. Is there an ANSI report which says something specific that we disagree with, or?
I don't particularly disagree with anything that was in the ANSI report. I think the ANSI report just points out that you still have to trust components that are provided by the cloud service provider. They're still in the TCB. You cannot say that nothing that's provided by the cloud service provider is in the TCB. We have the need to provide physical security. We have the need to provide, in some cases, key management systems that are in your trust zone. In some cases, some cloud service providers require that you have attestation verification done by the cloud. And in all these cases, the ANSI correctly points out that the cloud service provider is part of the TCB.
Okay, that's very helpful. I didn't know where we come from. That's brilliant. Thank you.
Right, and in T.fail, and there was another one called. I'm trying to remember.
Before we move on from ANSI, I think like the actual report, like what you said, like I agree with everything you said, but the report itself was just making a stance on whether or not confidential computing was a sufficient enough technology by itself to be able to meet certain requirements. They called out a certain regulation statement and they were saying, no, it's not. One thing that I think we should be aware of here is that their summary that they released, like a couple of sentences introducing the report, seemed very bearish on confidential computing, saying that it's not, such and such. However, the report itself is very nuanced. This is a meaningful security improvement. You should use it whenever you are deployed in the cloud. Just if you think the cloud you're deploying on is actively malicious, that they're actively trying to get into things, don't. That's not a situation you should do.
Right. Stan, if you don't mind sharing the document and scrolling all the way to the bottom, I think that those are the sections that Keith is referring to here. In the end, they suggest that you use confidential computing, but that you have clear-eyed understanding of what your threat model is and the pieces that confidential computing helps. There you go. Recommendations. Well, there's the recommendations for me, which I agree with. And if you scroll up, there's the recommendations for consumers.
Right. So like the introduction to it, if people just read that, and this is something that we should be aware of as far as a marketing and PR point of view, really makes it sound like, well, maybe confidential computing is not worthwhile. However, the report itself clearly says you should use it.
Okay, so there is a suggestion which I strongly support, which is that the new regulatory and standards SIG, which is in the process of being set up, should have a response to ANSI and engage with them. And I believe that we have someone, is it you, Keith, who has said they can engage with ANSI? Someone said they could on the list. I can't remember who it was. Dan, do you remember?
I do. It was our colleague from Red Hat, who is not Yash.
Yash? Roman?
Roman, yes.
Roman.
Roman, thank you.
Okay, cool. Okay, so I think that is probably what we should be doing. This is like a very good use of that new to be set up SIG, whose charter I've been working on with Dan and Jin today, and hopefully we can get that charter up and running pretty soon. So does that feel like a sensible approach from everyone? Obviously, we're hoping that we get good representation on that SIG. including anyone from here who feels they should be on it, and/or colleagues from their companies.
Yeah, and just maybe stepping back one level, I think we've talked about this before, but over in the governing board, they are chartering this SIG for regulatory engagement. And so
yeah,
I anticipate that that group will directly interface with ANSI here and perhaps get some revisions in play. That said, there's still enough material in here that I think we might want to consider how we update our own TAC white paper, or as we are creating some additional white papers in the coming year that we address these topics. One of those topics was what Alec just mentioned about the shared responsibility model. You know, some of our earlier positioning, not necessarily from one company in particular, but just some early positioning about confidential computing was you don't have to trust the CSP. And I think we've all kind of moved away from that positioning, but there's still, you know, a first impression to get over. And to many in the broader community, I think their first impression was, hey, this is a, you know, a silver bullet to keep you isolated from the infrastructure provider. Alec?
You totally agree with everything you just said, Dan. And just going to the second bullet on your recent publications, T.fail, and there's another one called Battering RAM that basically show that using a memory interposer, you can view and alter the memory of an enclave. And they specifically pick on SGX and SEV-SNP. Intel has basically provided a response, and AMD has also provided a response that say that physical security is required in order to have confidential computing. Well, if you're in a public cloud, physical security is provided by the cloud service provider. So if you look at the pictures in T.fail, they've got pictures of briefcase-sized interposers that you can then slide open a rack and attach and view the contents of memory. It's all very, you know, Mission Impossible kind of stuff, which I love, cloak and dagger stuff. Don't know how practical that is, and I don't know if we want to get into into that discussion on practicality. I think we just maybe need to take a stand on how physical security is required and just make that statement. And I agree with you, Dan, that our initial publications may have not drawn enough attention to the fact that physical security was required. I don't think we fully understood at that time how much physical security was required.
Absolutely.
Can
Ophir?
I come in on that?
I would love to get Ophir some airtime since you and I get to talk a lot.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it, Finn.
Yeah, the challenge that we see with T.fail is less with the access to the physical memory, which is a problem, but there are answers for that, and it's still, you need that physical memory. A lot of other things are still protected as we expect them. The issue is with the second part of that article, specifically for SGX and TDX, about getting the key that signs the attestation quote and making it that you can generate any fictitious attestation quote that would be verified by any verifier. And that is something that, unfortunately, up until this point, and we're trying to get a response from Intel, and we try to get it through the mailing list here. Intel does not respond to that, and it means that, I'll stop here. I think that everyone on this call understands where the problem is.
Well, I haven't read that part. I'm aware of it, but I haven't gone through that in detail. Just to check what I think I'm hearing, are we saying that if you get the key from any instance of a chip, that gives you signing access for any equivalent for any chip in that family?
Exactly. You can. They created a fictitious TDX attestation report that also included, following that, a NVIDIA H100 attestation report fictitious, and the verifier approved that everything is okay. The attestation report is signed as expected, and the values of the measurements were used to release sensitive data.
Yeah, so I can just refine that a bit. So the attackers were able to, or the researchers were able to extract a attestation endorsement key. And with that, they could manufacture attestations, but only linked to one machine. So they could go onto a machine that was not a TDX machine and produce attestations all day long because they have this endorsement key. But all of those would still be linked back to a single revocable key.
Right, but you can go to another machine that is not revocable and create it again. It's an endless attack.
Sure. And I'm not trying to minimize the attack here, but it is limited to the number of machines that you physically control. You also have to be able, on the response side, to detect that abuse is happening in order to revoke those keys. But once you've revoked that platform key, then that platform is, no matter if you attack it again, I believe that it's not usable.
Correct.
I think the generalization, and I'm not sure how to word this, is that usually your attestation needs to be in context. So if I have a host on Dan's cloud service, it's that conjunction, sort of this shared responsibility model of that platform is where I expect it to be, and I'm getting my confidential computing attestation.
I hugely hate that model. I hate
So
that model. I cannot tell you how inappropriate that is.
Dan, what you're saying is that you need now to know which machines you're verifying you're trusting the attestation reports coming from.
Yes, that's what he's saying.
Right. So that's
hugely
a huge
retrograde.
Yeah.
So I mean, if there is a model whereby we can say we could publish revoked keys, that's a start. But if you can spoof across machines, and you're now saying that you need to have some sort of tying to particular owners and controllers, that is a hugely retrograde step, I think. And I'd go a bit further as well, which is that although I don't like the fact that there needs to be physical protection of machines, and that physical protection we'd hoped would be not need to be very strong. It now seems like it does need to be very strong. I absolutely oppose the suggestion that any other shared responsibility should be required. Now, it's one model, have no problem with that, but absolutely we should be able to operate in a way where we don't need to trust the owner of a machine for anything other than the physical. And I specifically mean attestation measurements and verification. Sorry, attestation verification, not measurements. Measurements, fair enough. But yes, I'm happy that is a model that some folks wish to do, and I can see why. But it comes down again to we have this problem with who provides attestation, and it is an issue we've come up with a bit, and we've tried to look into a bit, and I still think it's the major unsolved problem for confidential computing is who should be providing attestation, whose job is it, who's best place to do it. Dan, you mentioned in an email to me today that you thought that one of the results of the IDC report was that people are confused by the number of attestation options. I don't think that is the problem. I think they're confused by the lack of known good attestation models that they can trust, which is rather a different thing. So I think we still have this problem about who should be providing an attestation verification service or sets of them. And I would like to see this group and the CCC as general move more into that. I'll stop, but it's a long-term rant of mine, and I don't see myself giving it up very soon. Manu,
All
thank
right.
you. Give me a couple of $1 million and I'll consider doing it.
All right,
Start.
Alec.
Yeah, just to up-level the conversation, Mike, I totally agree with your North Star vision that we should try and shrink the size of the TCB that's owned by the cloud service provider with a North Star vision of shrinking it to 0. That doesn't exist today, as has been proven by T.fail and battering RAM. We need to be sanguine about what promises we can make today so that customers
And that's
understand it.
fine.
Well,
I'm
hang
cool
on.
with
Let me continue my thought. The one thing I'll say is we also here as a CCC that's funded, at least most of our premier members, I think, are commercial entities, and so we need to keep an eye on things that are commercially viable. And customers have not shown an interest in going willingness to pay a huge premium or suffer huge performance penalties in order to get the increased security that you get by eliminating more of the cloud service provider from the TCB. So we need to, and I don't want to litigate that during this call, but we need to keep an eye on commercial concerns.
Let me
The last thing I'll say, and then you can speak. The last thing I'll say is that I like the way Dan characterized it. If Dan's got a cloud service and it's Dan's cloud service, this T.fail report says, go ahead, create as many attestation verification keys, endorsement keys as you want, sign as many attestation documents as you want. But unless Dan tells me, yeah, that machine is in my cloud service, then I'm just not it's not gonna interest me. I'm only interested in attestation reports that tie back to a machine identity that is in Dan's inventory. And I think that combination, while it certainly calls on us to trust the cloud service provider, in this case, Dan, thank God he's trustworthy, it does not, it still allows you to make pretty strong statements about confidential computing. So with that, I'll go back on mute.
Okay, so respond to those 2 points in the first and the second.
But briefly though, Mike, so I want to make sure we got.
Yeah, I'll try. This is why we need 2-hour meetings. This is the conversations we should be having every 2 weeks. Seriously, this is it. So anyway, Alec, to your first point, yes, we need to be pragmatic. And absolutely. What I don't want us doing is saying that this approach is equally technically and security-wise strong as this other approach, and tying ourselves to it's all kind of fine. I have no problem with saying, yes, there are these levels of security and we have to choose what's appropriate based on business and risk and all. That's entirely cool. So, second point, we have a problem because you are tying 2 different types of assertion together there. One is the attestation measurement report, which is machine produced, cryptographically bound to that chip, which is lovely. And 2, an assertion which, given current capabilities from Dan, that he owns this machine, cannot be tied in the same way. That is a business assertion and is much, much more difficult to bind. Now, I'm aware of some work going on by at least one member around this that would possibly allow this stuff to happen, but we need to be very, very careful about saying we're happy for those things to be bound together when we only have a way of doing one and not the other at the moment from a technical point of view. Sorry, Ophir, I'm really sorry, but I was responding to Alec. I will cede the floor to you. Please, Ophir.
And first of all, I want to make sure, because maybe some of the things that were said about a trusted and agreed upon attestation verifier could solve the problem. The problem here is on the generation of the attestation quote, not on the verification. And and all of the I know which IDs of machines are in my control. It's good, but it's not solving the problem, because as long as you don't know that someone copied that key and can generate an attestation quote, you won't revoke that key for an ID, and you can do that and and you can copy the machine ID as well. Correct me if I'm wrong about that. What I'm missing here is that the response of Intel said, hey, we cannot block this access to memory because it will affect performance. We can understand that. It started with SGX, it continued to TDX, but that's not the way that they connect it to the other problem, which feels, to a software engineer as something that could be fixed in software for that part of remote attestation. That tight coupling of them is the problem. We don't hear from Intel anything about how they're going to solve this problem. And again, I think that smart people on the mailing list suggested ways of changing the algorithm that generates the attestation quote. And we don't have any response from the vendor.
Okay, so I think that's a pretty good recap of the breadth of the attestation issue. We have different mechanisms for how we explore this. We can work on something within our own TAC documentation. We have the attestation SIG. I wonder where we can best advance this conversation. Is this something that
Well, what
people who
conversation do we want to
participate?
have?
Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So go ahead, Mike.
What conversation do we want to have? Are we saying, should we address this via vendors? Are we saying we should have a technical discussion on it? Are we saying we should have a statement that we can put out to the broader world, which is the CCC's response to it? Because these are very different things we could be doing, all of which are possible.
I think there's always the risk that a key will be extracted. And so independent of the immediate attack paper, we should probably have a better way to contextualize attestations. And I wonder if the attestation SIG would be interested in picking that up.
Do we have any of the SIG chairs here?
I've been one of the SIG chairs up until I joined the TAC here. I think this is something that is going to have a lot of discussion in the attestation SIG. I think it'll mostly be discussion around where the gaps are. I think if coming up with a statement on if that's the direction we go, that's probably best suited here. If that's the question.
Yeah, I think I can imagine a couple different things. So one would be a technical pattern for, I want to be able to recognize my attestation in context. And I don't know what that pattern is today. Is it a TPM attestation of the physical machine in conjunction with a CVM attestation? Is it a CSP token in conjunction with my CC attestation? I would like some sort of technical pattern. So that would be one approach. And then the second thing would just be, I think it really presumes that we have some technical pattern, is in our either TAC white paper or in some new paper, talk about how attestations should be used in context.
I think the first topic that you mentioned is a good use of the attestation SIG's time. Speaking from experience there, having, deciding upon the right topics and finding good uses at the time that we have has been an ongoing thing. I think this is timely. This is necessary. We should make sure that this is what that SIG is doing.
Cool. Which means that we should advertise early on before it takes place that this is going to be a topic and encourage people to come to it. And I can think of a couple of people I would be inviting to it specifically. So I know some work they're doing. And I think that would be a good thing. also, presumably the video of this will be posted on YouTube. I would like to remind people to maybe put on the TAC mailing list. They should watch it if they have not been available to do so. This is a really, really important conversation, and I'm really glad we're having it.
Was there a conversation in the attestation SIG that discussed this in more depth? I'm just needing to know a little bit more. Fear, I know what you said, I wasn't able to fully internalize in the amount of time that you discussed it. I need a little bit more time to fully understand it. I don't know if there's another place I can turn to better understand it. Is the paper a place, or is there an attestation SIG meeting that I can listen to?
The paper is great for understanding the problem.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I need to find the time to read it.
Um,
Thanks.
So, Keith, I have a long-standing clash with the attestation SIG meeting, which is causing me problems because I really want to be there. Is there any chance we might be able to move it? If we put it out a week, for instance, I'd be able to do it. It just falls exactly the same time.
We can see if that's possible. Yeah.
Okay.
So Keith, has somebody backfilled for you at the attestation SIG?
Chung on my team is going to be. I'll be joining in parallel with him for a little while he ramps up.
Excellent. Okay, there's another topic in the ANSI paper that I wanted to draw out, that the authors of this went to look for certification of TEEs through Global Platform. I believe that is the organization that certifies TPMs. Might be wrong on that, but they're certainly not the organization that certifies confidential computing TEEs. And this seems to be a fundamental misunderstanding. And I know that Alec had earlier looked at a draft ISO standards process and was looking to be a liaison from the CCC to ISO. And I know that got stalled with some Linux Foundation administrative hurdles. So I'm curious where that stands now.
Dang it, that fell off my radar, Dan. I'll ping Jory again. We've just not been getting as quick a response on that as I'd like. I know we as an organization are also working to become liaisons to that working group, but I'll bump that thread.
Which working group?
The working group for, I can't remember, but I know it's working group 4. I can't remember the
name.
name
Do you
of
mean the ISO one or the global platform one?
The ISO one.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I've got news on the other one.
Okay, cool. So I'll bump that thread, Dan. Thanks for the reminder. I'll get in touch with Jory and Rian, and hopefully we can get this conversation to a good spot.
If you need me to jog that, let me know, Alec.
I will include you on the mail. Thanks for the offer.
All right, Mike, you
okay, can I weigh in on the global platform thing? So there are other conversations happening from the TWI SIG to global platform. I met with global platform. I met with the head of global platform and some other members there about getting some of the work that TWI is doing, which relates to their possible definitions as well. And there are some problems in that the LF cannot become a signator, whatever the word is, of global platform because of their rules. I wrote to them today asking them if they would consider becoming associate members of the CCC, so that we could have those conversations here rather than the other direction. So that's part one. The second question is about certification of TEs, and we have a problem here. In that, when we drafted the definition of what a TE looks like, we did it very, very carefully. We didn't, for instance, use the word encrypt. We did, however, use the word hardware-based. And if we're going to try to find a definition which allows a technical stamp, as it were, of this is a TE-enabled chip and this is not a TE-enabled chip, or this is a TE and this is not a TE, that's a very, very complex thing. I'm not sure we want to hand it off to ISO, and we don't have the capabilities to do it ourselves at the moment. We could decide it's something we want to do, but every time it comes up, I kind of say, look, this is why it's so complicated, and we step away from it, which I think is probably the right thing to do. But it is causing a problem. It's going to cause more of a problem. We need to decide at some point what we're going to do about it. Some people, for instance, would say, well, we should drop the hardware bit, and that allows Nitro and stuff in, for instance. But if we do that, that fundamentally changes the point of the consortium and the strength of what we think we can provide. Even with these TFL issues, I think we probably all agree that the hardware-based is stronger than software-based. But how do you define a T? Partly because a T is not a thing, right? It's not a physical thing. It's a set of it's a thing set up with a set of instructions. And so the whole concept of certification and compliance has been a tricky one from day zero, probably day -1, actually, if I remember rightly, of the CCC. And I want us just to be aware of that as we think about it. Okay. Any questions, any thoughts? Some wry smiles from people, I see.
I think that like everything you said is true. I don't know how it helps us move forward. Right. What do we do, next?
Not moving forward may be what we decide to do, right? We just say the definition we have is sufficient unto the day, and that's what we stick by. Whether that helps people externally, again, as we're looking to do regulator and standards SIG, or regulatory and standards SIG, if we go to regulators, are they going to say that's insufficient? And we don't know the answer to that. And this is part of the conversation that we need to have in that SIG. So we need to make sure that everyone who's interested, particularly premium members, has someone on that SIG. And it's not going to be a technical SIG. It's a more of a policy SIG with some technical input. Sorry, Dan.
No, all good. So I want to make sure that I capture what you first said, though. So you have reached out to Global Platform, or you were sort of forbidden?
I have spoken to them, and we've worked out that, and I've spoken to the LF Legal as well, folks, and it's clear that we can't sign Global Platform SIG because of their confidentiality requirements. I have, however, asked them whether they would be interested in joining us for some conversations, and one of our new members, Qualcomm, is a leading member of that group and that particular work stream. So I see that as a positive thing, and hopefully we can move on that.
Okay, so I'm gonna get my cursor back. I'm gonna drop your name on that then. That's okay.
Yeah, sure.
And
Absolutely.
Keith, can I sign you up to task the attestation SIG?
Sure. Yep.
Great, thank you. Great. There's a variety of additional issues. Which ones should we grab next here?
Should we briefly talk about the IDC report and the status of that?
Yeah, so I know that I'm on the governing board list. Oh, Alex, sorry.
Yeah, all I was just going to say is, I mean, I'm looking at the time and dang it, we're down to 7 minutes. I sort of am feeling that we need to lengthen the meeting a little bit. I don't know, Dan, if as TAC chair, if you've got the cycles to do it, or if you feel like it's also required. It does feel like the last couple of meetings have ended rather abruptly. So I just kind of wanted to throw that up there on actions to reconsider whether the shortened schedule is fitting our needs.
Yeah, so I'm game to expand it again if we continue to see pressure. What I would like to do is have us be very efficient with our time. And so these discussions are helpful, and I want there to be enough room for the discussion to take place. but then there also needs to be some outcome of those discussions. So, getting to sort of a structured topic that we go through, and then like in the past, something that we've done to make those conversations concrete is we have been jointly authoring a paper. So, one person would take the pen, so to speak, to create the initial draft, and then we would work through revisions as a group.
I'm hoping that we can do something with that around TFail once we've got Attestation 6 had a bit of a chat about it. And I'm already poising my fingers above a typing thing once I know where that should be going.
I totally agree. And T.fail is, I'm just now seeing it for the first time. I wasn't aware of that one. I was aware of battering ram, which didn't talk about the endorsement key being extractable. Yikes. Okay, so we need to think that all the way through. And the other thing I kind of want to throw on to the agenda is something that's happening in real time, is that T's are becoming component devices, right? We've got these NICs that are coming in there through SPDM and TDISP. We've got GPUs that are extending the size of the T, and we have, and our white papers don't really describe that. And so as the CCC representative for my company, the designers of these hardware components are coming to me and saying, hey guys, we want our thing to be confidential, but we don't know how, because the white papers don't really help us think through that. I'd like to see our TAC give guidance that extends to multi-component devices that are comprised of hardware that is owned by third parties, first parties, the whole ecosystem. And I know, dang it, I'm blocking on his name now. He really helped us understand as a TAC that there's an ecosystem that builds the TCB that even goes into a single component device, right? Firmware vendors and the die, manufacturers and all the tape in, tape out stuff. I'd like to see us kind of expand these white papers to add those components.
Hugely so. Agreed. Keith?
Just wanted to point out this composite attestation topic is what the attestation SIG has been pivoting towards discussing lately. So it's also ongoing there. The T.fail and contextual attestation stuff will probably take away from that from a little bit, but it is on the radar.
Again, that's another reason I want to be part of those conversations if at all possible. I've had problems finding the videos as well. I'm not sure they're getting up very quickly. But
other than not, I'll check on that.
I can work with our LF friends to help with us.
So we were just about to start talking about the IDC report. So I know that was circulated at least to the governing board list, and I think also the outreach list.
So the latest of that is that the final edits have got, hopefully final edits have gone to IDC. This is from Mike Farron-Jones yesterday, and they should be getting us something. We're hoping for publication, I think, within a week or so. We're waiting to hear a final for us to approve it, but that's the thinking.
Okay, so that's something else that everybody should read, and we could do maybe a dedicated session on the IDC report and things that we want to address based on those findings.
Is that a report that was not published yet? If I understand,
it's not been published. The CCC commissioned it, and it's not been published yet. Mathieu has his hand up as well.
Okay, so a question. I didn't receive it. Okay. I mean, is it something that you shared on the mailing list or not on the TAC one?
I don't know if it's shared to the TAC mailing list or not. It's been shared to the outreach mailing list. It's very much a market report rather than a technical report, although there's stuff that we can certainly consume.
Okay. And if I made just one comment, so I don't know if it should be in the TAC or in the outreach meeting, But I guess that, okay, the ANSI report, the Gartner, let's say a publication, the IDC report, all of them, they demonstrate that there are more and more people or organizations looking for information about confidential computing. And they are looking for, let's say, a basic information, what will be the benefit for them. So probably the CCC should write something about this. I don't know if it should be within the TAC or within the outreach meeting. What is your opinion? If you have
Opinion is
any.
we've reached the top of the hour.
Yeah, so in short, yeah, I think we can bring these topics into the TAC. It's always a matter of how do we find something concrete to do with them? It could be a revision of an existing paper, it could be creating a new paper, it could be a new specification. So I think these topics are all valid. So what I could use is a little bit more help over the mailing list to shape these agendas so that we've got everybody engaged.
Okay. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, and with that, we're out of
also said
time.
you wanted to avoid apathy. I think we haven't had much apathy today, so that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, it's felt like a good meeting.
Thanks so much for leading it, Dan. I'm sorry that I was talking so much at the time. I apologize. But thank you.
No apologies necessary. All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
folks.
you. Bye-bye.